The Chinese government is promising more stimulus to prop up the world's second largest economy. In a statement, President Xi Jinping said Beijing will be deploying what he describes as more forceful measures that would help the nation beat current private sector forecasts. Partly due to strict lockdowns that paralyzed major cities earlier in the year, most analysts expect the Chinese economy to grow by around 3%. That's much slower than last year's 8.1% and about half the five-year pre-pandemic average of more than 6.5%. Now, President Xi Jinping did not give details about the new stimulus measures, but said the government would stick to its goal of a 5.5% expansion. Now, for more on the story, let's go to Stephen Innes. He's managing partner at SPI Asset Management in Bangkok. Stephen, welcome back to the program. Thanks as always for joining us. Now, just how important is the Chinese economy in the Asia-Pacific region in particular, and of course the global economy in general?
Well, China is just hugely important. The Asia region and all the associated countries in the ASEAN bloc consider China one of the most critical, if not the most critical country in its foreign policy and in its trade domain. I think this is extremely, extremely important here to keep that in focus, because a lot of trade ties all run through Beijing, and this is extremely important when they start addressing stimulus. The hope is, however, is that they eventually reopen and they receive that multiplier effect when people actually start using the stimulus. On the global side, they're immeasurably important, basically because of the supply chains. They produce and supply a lot of world's goods, and that's significant. These supply chains have been eroded, and this is a big contributor to the current inflation scrim right now. So all hope is here as we get some stimulus from China and supply chains start to open up soon.
Right, so the biggest issue that China was facing earlier in the year are the lockdowns in places like Shanghai, but they seem to have gotten their COVID outbreaks under control. But there are other challenges for the Chinese economy, particularly housing, right? Could you talk more about that?
Yeah, the slump is all related to last year when it kicked off with the Evergrande default, and that's sort of still lingering in the background. I mean, there's a lot of property builders who are just completely over leveraged, and that's continuing to drive property prices. A lot of empty properties, a lot of empty projects sitting idle right now, and that's a concern. One of the few destinations for the last 2 decades for household savings in China has been in their property. So with property prices slumping, it's direct wealth erosion, and this hurts the consumers' pockets. They just have less money to spend. And this is a worrying aspect. Even now, when they start coming out of COVID lockdowns, will they have that money to spend? That's the big problem right now.
All right. Stephen Innes in Bangkok, thank you for joining the show as always.
Thanks for having me.